Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma231 here, back in today to talk about Weekly Shonen Jump, issue number 4/5 of 2025. Of course, this is not only the first holiday issue of Weekly Shonen Jump for the financial, fiscal run of Shonen Jump year of 2025, but also the final issue of Shonen Jump that released in 2024. So this is the final batch of Weekly Shonen Jump chapters that we get in 2024, is really the sentence I was trying to go for there, but just not doing a very good job at it. I'll say that much right there, but we've got a very good issue of Weekly Shonen Jump this week for that main point of, hey guys, we have a 2-week break issue in Jump, so because of that, a lot of these chapters sort of need to be up and big, to capture by his attention, to be like, hey, I know it's going to be 2 weeks where you're not going to have Jump, but we're going to make sure that this issue of Jump is very much worth it. And I really think that all of the 13 series that I'll be talking about today really build up to that point of okay, we definitely have some very good stuff going on here. Really, I don't have anything to say rambling before, just this is a good issue of Jump, and I sort of just want to sit down and talk about it, get them all ranked, and call it a day here, so I don't see any reason why we should just not start off with Undead Unluck. And this is a very big chapter of Undead Unluck for a few reasons. Number one, it is a large chapter in size, being 25 pages, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, that's because of the whole thing of hey, Undead Unluck is reaching its super climax of the entire story. And of course, whenever that happens in Jump, series normally get a page extension allowing them hey, I remember this happened with Dr. Stone. I think JJK may have gotten it too, but I specifically remember whenever a bigger series end, hey, they get a page extension to be hey, these chapters are big and they are decently important, and that's what Undead Unluck got here. This chapter is all about them using the artifact of the heart, or mainly just Fuko and Andy, to go through and beat the Sun Soul amalgamation thing that's been going on. I really love Soul's moment where he pulls up all of the UMAs out of the ground and brings them all to fight in this battle. I wish they sort of had more of a purpose here, but they really don't. And really, this chapter is just that greatness of Undead Unluck, where everybody's hey, here are the rules of life. And I really like how throughout this chapter, Luna just gets very freaked out by what Fuko and Andy are doing. And Andy has this sign of hey, love that's built into present and future is infinite, right? And of course saying to hey, but hatred that's finite, rebellion was that way, it can only be powered for so long, but love, the heart, this thing's never going to die out of power once me and Fuko get using it. It's a little bit of a cool moment there. And then Andy's and Fuko's moment of hey, my death is going to be whenever you forget who I am, because that's just how it works. And just the way that Andy goes through and explains all of that to Fuko, and he's hey, this has taught me what death truly means. It's just a really, really fun chapter. I especially love this final moment where we see that everybody is fighting alongside each other. I mean, we even see Ano Un, we see Victor and Julia, we see Gina, we see Rip, we see Phil. We just see literally everybody fighting, and Andy just says hey, we're undead, and everybody's go do it, and he's just Undead Unluck, and swings down the big heart laser beam sword thing that him and Fuko are holding on to, and then it just goes through and cuts Sun's soul straight in half, and they finish it off with a wicked sick. It's just a really awesome moment here in Undead Unluck where all of these various plot lines of the series that didn't really get finished aren't particularly seeming like they're going to be finished here, but Fuko and Andy's story is wrapping up very, very nicely. And I really like this chapter, and I just had the biggest smile on my face while reading this chapter the first time. I definitely don't think it's one of the highest top 3 chapters, but I do think it was a very good chapter, so I'll give it there in the top 4 for sure. One Piece was another really awesome chapter, really focusing in on Elbaf, and I really love the contraction we're getting here of, okay, Usopp has always thought that the Giants are these strong, manly warriors, pretty much. Manly is not the correct word, courageous warriors. And we're seeing now that maybe these Giants aren't as courageous as, of course, people of Dory and Broggy's generation once were. I really like this contrast that's being made, and it's going to be interesting how, of course, this is Usopp's whole thing, is making it to Elbaf and being a brave warrior of the sea. And we're going to see here how this actually works. So I'm really interested to see where this goes from here, along with the other plot lines of, okay, everything from Ohara is here on Elbaf. Saul in this big library opens up whenever a book enlarges whenever it enters it. It's really cool. And also that Vegapunk not only has a body double of the original Stella model, but also where was I going with that? But also that Vegapunk, or at least Lilith, is planning to settle down here. So to everybody who's like, oh man, I really hope Lilith becomes a Straw Hat, it doesn't particularly look like that's going to be happening. But overall, this was a really, really fun chapter. And then we have this ending note of where Loki is talking to somebody on this Snow Denden Mushi, and all of a sudden we see that somebody who looks like Shanks, and then somebody who looks like some female of some type. It's just the way they're drawn, but it could be a guy. Just the way that, I don't know, we get like a very small look at the eyes get summoned into the Elbaf Castle. It's very, very interesting because we don't know what's going on here, and I've seen a lot of people online bring up a point like, okay, Shanks does not have the scar on his eye, so is it really him? But we really, really don't know, and it's just going to be interesting to see where One Piece goes from here, because, of course, we just got to Elbaf, and what is this Elbaf arc going to look like? I'm just really, really excited for it. One Piece, honestly, probably a top 3 chapter this week. But if we want to talk about another, like, not top 3 chapter, but definitely high up chapter, then it's definitely Kagurabachi. I love Kagurabachi, and this chapter really focuses on Samura's daughter Iori as she's going through her school days and meeting with all of her other classmates. There's the one like Ishura or whatever who's like put the marker on his face and makes the scar look like Chihiro's. It's honestly a little bit of a funny joke there. And just the way that all of this is sort of being quasi-built up, I do really like it. Until eventually we see that Kogiri just suddenly appears, and he's just like, oh no, where is Samura's daughter? And like his female companion's like, you've got to realize she's not going to be called Samura, because like, there's no record of that in what her name is, but we don't know her name or whatever. And then eventually the Masumi members come in, take Iori, and throughout the chapter, I really love to mention, like, Iori is slowly remembering her father when we get told in the very beginning of the chapter, like, hey, my mother's been raising me ever since I was little, which also brings the question, I will be talking about this more in depth in my own Kagurabachi video where I'll do it, but, like, what about Iori's mother and potentially Samura's wife? Is this the same woman? Like, we don't actually know all of the little ins and outs going on here, but eventually Chihiro goes in, starts to face off with Kogiri, and Iori, who ends up protecting one of her classmates, is taken into the protection of the Masumi here for a minute. Very, very good chapter of Kagurabachi for sure. Actually, that's not a bad Kaga. I actually like that as my abbreviation sort of instead of Kaga, instead of Kaga. I actually sort of like that abbreviation. We're going to stick with that abbreviation from now on. Going to another chapter, Kill Blue this week was very interesting because I really am having a hard time wrapping around my thoughts on this chapter. Of course, this is the big, like, entirety is like, hey, this guy named Kakeru Inukai got introduced last time, and this is the big chapter where Ogami and Kakeru are sort of getting along in school, because, of course, Kakeru transfers into the school, follows around Ogami the entire time, and follows him to, like, home ec club and all of that stuff even there. And he sort of realizes that Otogami is not the hard guy he once was until Kakeru makes a very stupid move and Ogami has to come in and rescue him. And then this whole thing of like, okay, maybe Ogami still is Ogami at the end of the day. I sort of like the message that we're getting here where Ogami's like, hey, I've got a soft spot for idiot kids like you who sort of just got thrust into this place because they know nobody loved them in the first place. I do like how it sort of gets built up, but I just have a lot of conflicting thoughts on this chapter. But Kill Blue, I thought it was good. I don't think it was the worst chapter this week. We're going to get to the worst chapter, but I think it's probably going to get in that spot of the second to last because it was good, but I just have a few issues with how Kakeru was presented in this chapter. Next up is Ichi the Witch, which Ichi the Witch is just a masterpiece of a series constantly. Of course, the World Hater Magic and Ichi are fighting off against each other, and I love this moment where the World Hater Magic just says like, hey, Oro, I don't particularly want to mess with you either, so I'll give you like the chance to leave this area, and like opens up a portal for Oro and Ichi to actually escape out of. But Ichi's like, hey, if I'm here, I'm going to fight you, and eventually turning on Oro's powers after the World Hater Magic has come out and, like, made these, like, death bringers, or, like, these people who warp out to space all of a sudden, and then Ichi uses the Hisame Magic, which he now calls something different, which, of course, is, like, the true name of the Hisame Magic, which, let me go and find out what it is. Urowashi, and, like, it's this magnificent ice shark especially being that it's being used with Oro's amplification. It looks just really, really awesome. And then seeing the thing charge into the World Hater magic and all of these, like, I almost want to call them angels, because that's sort of like angels of death almost. This is like a very striking visual for sure. The Ichi, which was a very awesome chapter this week, and it was short and there wasn't a lot of content to it, but just seeing how cool Ichi looked was worth all of it for sure. Sidcraft Love is a Mystery was good. I definitely did not expect it. Like, I opened it up and like, okay, yeah, we're going to be getting a Lulu chapter this time. I'm happy with that. But then we get like Elio wrapped into it, and then Souffle comes in, and then they have like this workout session. It's just like a random chapter before it's like, oh man, there's this love letter here, and they're all debating about this because, oh no, they all like Sidcraft, but they don't know it. And then Sid coming in and said, oh no, this is going to be a bomb terrorist attack on this place. So what are we ever going to do? And then everybody's like, oh no, we need to go stop that. And I really like how this is like probably going to be a few chapter arc, tying all of the girls we've met together so far and Sid, bringing our 4 main characters to this boat and having them all figure out how to do this bomb. And of course, indie fashion, also get some rom-com shenanigans going on there too. Good chapter of Sidcraft. I definitely liked it. Astro Royale. I did not think that we'd be getting the title of Astro Battle Royale so quickly in this series thus far. But that is what we get in this chapter. I'm actually going to open it up and just like go through it and just talk about this random chapter. Shibana is introduced, as we of course met him last time, and of course Habaru's like, oh yeah, that's Shibana, my brother. And you think like, okay, they're going to have some camaraderie going on here, but no. Shibana just comes over and almost tries to cut off or like pretty much cave in Hibaru's head. And it's like, okay, this is an interesting character. I'm interested to see where he is going, all things considered. And he's like, oh man, Hibaru, you are getting better at all of this. And then the 9th adopted son, Tiara, suddenly appears. Okay, we're meeting another brother all of a sudden. And does he apparently work with Shibana? We don't quite know, but he is here now. He's like, hey, you want to be king of the underworld? Then you need to win, of course, Shibana's Astro Battle Royale, which is going to be this massive 300 person battle royale pretty much, where they're doing something, and it's like, okay, we're going to be doing this. Shibana tries to attack Hibaru some more, and they just go back and forth until Shibana just says like, hey, all the more reason for you to show off your power to everybody is to rule the underworld. He goes down, brings out a sword, tries to cut off Hibaru's head, and all of a sudden just says like, hey guys, I'll see you guys later. Let's drag this whole chaotic world into it and have fun making a mess. And you're like, okay, what in the world's going on here? And then we're suddenly 3 days later at the Astro Battle Royale, where we see that Hibaru, this other random kid who's been with him, and Tarasu are all getting ready to fight in this tournament thing. It's like, what is going on here? I think there was a much better way to bring this idea into this series. I mean, what we really get here is just, okay, Astro Battle Royale. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, Shibana is actually an antagonist. Okay, I actually like this development that we're getting. But I also feel like it would have been better if we got like a pause. Okay, this is happening in 3 days. What can we do to prepare for this battle? Do we need to know something about Shibana or no? The characters are just going into it because of course they are. Like, I really want to love this series. And I really want to get into it and enjoy it. I just have some problems with how some of it is being written as we are going through here and getting it. I feel like this would have been much better if you've just like taken a moment and just said, okay, hey, this is how it is. We're going to pause here. Hibaru is going to end up fighting in this. But like, think about Kagurabachi. We got introduced to Rakuzachi. And then we had a buildup of plenty of time where we got interest. We understood things about the Rakuzachi before hopping straight into it. Where that's the exact opposite of what we're doing now, where it's like, okay, Astro Battle Royale, oh, Astro Battle Royale. I just have some major issues with this chapter, and I'm just going to go and put it down here, because there's no way this isn't the worst chapter of the week this week. Like, I hate to say it, but just, come on. There was a better way to write this, and I just don't think this was it. I just hate to say it, but that's what I honestly think. Hematin is the next series we have here. This is a return to form chapter for Hematin, pretty much, as we see that Himari and Iomori are getting back to the regular house cleaning duties, as Iomori comes over and just says, like, hey, we need to talk about how I'm cleaning your house, pretty much. Like, right now, you have a few of my delegated tasks given to me, but I know I could be doing more to support you and also be doing a better house cleaning stuff. So we get a lot of the whole thing here of like, okay, Himari and Iomori are going through like their boundaries with cleaning the house and all of that. And I really like how Himari just says like, okay, like, hey, I can do my laundry, but I'll give it to you to fold. How's that sound? And Iomori's like, hey, sounds good. I just really love how all this was being built up in this chapter, and also the whole thing of like Himari wanting some grilled fish and how good this grilled fish that Iomori actually makes in the end actually looks. And then she posts it on her Instagram, and then like, oh no, it gets so many likes so fast. And then the final moment where Himari just looks at it, at one of the comments she got, and she's like, oh wow, this comment says that kind of food would make me fall for the chef. And she gives it a heart, and she just thinks like, hey, but that's not as though I like him in that way. It's just a really, really cute moment, and Hematin was just very, very good this week. I am honestly happy to be back in this return to form series section of like, hey, it was fun going on the whole like school field trip, but this is what Hematin seems to do best, and I am all here for this. So yeah, Hematin, very, very good. Ultimate Excess Kyoshi is just in its training arc right now. Everybody's doing their thing. Kyoshi is learning how to do preset power ping pong and training with Akari to get good at it. And all of this is just going on, and yeah, some good things for the series, that's all I can say there. We get the whole conversation of like Winchester, Moteki, Tsurugi, and Sasaki and Sosuke, and the other two characters I've forgotten the names of. It's Akari's brother, and then Sosuke's partner, who is also friends with Akari. All of them talking about the Black Parade that's about to be happening, and oh no, how it's such a big deal. And then everybody leaves, and then Sasaki's just like, hey Kyoshi, they're all going to go, but here's the thing. Your training's not over yet. You are going to fight me now that you have your preset power leveled out. As you see high stakes come out behind him, it's like, okay, we're about to be getting into a battle here. This is going to be super awesome. I am definitely all here for it. I love Old Nexus Kyoshi, and just, this is what we needed. We needed a good little training arc, and I'm happy to see it'll be going on a few more chapters before the big event of the Black Parade ends up actually happening. So, good chapter of Ultimate Excess Kyoshi for sure. Next up is Akane Banashi, and I've actually got a funny story about this chapter because, of course, doing this series, I've been behind on Shonen Jump for a good while, and I would have been caught up by now, except I took about a 10-day break from reading Weekly Shonen Jump as the new year started, and because of that, before all of this was happening, whenever I was reading the initial chapter of issue number 3 to do that video and get all of that done, I accidentally read this Akane Banashi chapter, not realizing that I'd read that chapter and the chapter number, what is this, 140 if I'm not mistaken? Yeah, 140 and 139 out of order pretty much. So this was almost a chapter I talked about last week, but I ended up catching my mistake. But either way, this is just a really solid chapter of Akane Banashi because it wraps up all of these ideas of, okay, here's where the story is going forward. Kyoji is going with, let me just pull up the panel. It's going to be much easier that way. Yeah, Kyoji is being sent to study with Masters in Cho, Koguma's going to Ikin, Giroko's going to Taiza, and of course, Akane is going to Mastery Show. And Makaru says like, hey guys, we need to build up our strength under these new Guardians, and hey, while we're doing that, I will become a Shinuchi and become an Okoban, and after we've done all of that, we will all meet back up here and restart the Shiguma school once again. It's so just a really, really cool moment as like this dedication of like, hey, this is how it's going to go. And we have this moment earlier in the chapter where Akane's on this train, and she's just thinking about everything, and like, I really love the moment where she just like grabs her hand and like shoves her face into him, and like does that a few times, and like everybody on the train looks back, see what she's doing, but she's just thinking like, hey, that story is in my hands now. Shiguma's art is the reason all of this has happened, and it's my duty to bring that story to light, to sort of, in a way, understand Mastery Show, understand Shiguma Arakawa, and bring all of this together inside the story. A really, really good chapter of Akane Banashi, and there were just so many really good chapters this week, and Blue Box was another amazing chapter, as we get this whole thing of Taiki's dad, Chinatsu's dad, who we actually learned the name of in this chapter. His name is Fuyuki, if I'm not, let me just make sure on that again. Let me just scroll through the chapter. Yeah, Fuyuki Kano. He's stuck in a taxi, and like eventually he's like, hey, I need to make it to my daughter's basketball game. And Taiki comes running, saying like, hey, father-in-law. He's like, don't you call me that, Taiki. And he has this moment where he just thinks about Chinatsu and like, man, the way her name is not like the way her name is. She was not as outgoing as the way I last remember her, but maybe Taiki's changed that about her. And Taiki and Fuyuki eventually make it over into the big area of the basketball game. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm forgetting all my words all of a sudden. Make it over to the basketball game area, and it's this big thing of like, okay, hey, the game is actually starting, and we see Chinatsu just go and start playing. And of course, her biggest rival Yumika is there playing with her. So it's this big thing of, okay, Yumika and Chinatsu are finally going off. And the end of the chapter is like, oh man, Yumika is unstoppable. What am I going to do? Leading us to believe like, okay, we all want Chinatsu to win this, but is she actually going to be able to take it out at the end of the day? Really good chapter of Blue Box, and I hate to put it under Kagurabachi for now, but just we're going to have to rearrange a lot of this top area because there were a lot of amazing chapters this week. Elusive Samurai was not the best chapter in my opinion, but it was a very well played out one. As we sort of open up the chapter with Tokiyuki being like, hey guys, we are all going to be retreating out of here, right? And then the Lord who they're protecting, him and Tokiyuki go out to play drums, and they play them very poorly by getting tickled by both Ayako and Shizuku pretty much, and everybody's laughing at how bad your drum playing is, until eventually we wrap this idea into the end of the chapter where they have these deers who are hitting on the backs of the drums and making that sound, so they think they're still there doing battle cry stuff when it's actually not them. It's just a very, very well played out joke as we get here, until eventually the entire Hojo party and Tokiyuki's like, everybody from this fortress spreads out into these three other fortresses. There's a sort of like unimportant note, I think, where we have the actual Nezu heir and then Kojiro talk to each other, and the whole thing is like, hey man, I know you like Sheena. And it's like, does that really need to get brought up here? Until eventually it's like, hey, we actually studied who your father was, Kojiro. Your father's name was like Skyline Kudo Takakage, and he died protecting somebody with your older brother. And Koji's like, hey, or Kojiro's like, hey, I don't care, it doesn't matter now. I am my own person because of what the elusive warriors have made me, right? Really cool moment, and I do decently like that. Toki then appears for the battle, and it's like, oh no. And then the other really brilliant part of this was where on top of the drums, after they find a deer, of course, Toki looks up and just says like, oh man, look at that. It says on the top, atop this drum dies Toki Yorito. And then Tokoyuki comes out with a bow, pointed right at Toki. Just a really nice build up to the end of the chapter. I didn't think everything in this chapter was great. Like, I think there's a little bit of the few unnecessary moments, but really, I'm going to remember the sort of drum play that we got here for a good portion of the Elusive Samurai, because it's just set up and done really, really well. And finally, we have Witch Watch, which was a truly amazing chapter this week, because of course, this entire time we knew that Taiga had to die. Of course, he's the only character we do not know of in the present storyline. We know of Kon, we know of Ibuki, we know of Kokaku Raiba, we know of Genji, or Reiji, whatever Morito's father's name is. We know all of them are still alive and well, so we know that Taiga is the one who has to die here. And the way this happens is Kon is like sealing off Jean d'Arc's grudge in this moment, and as he's doing it, it's starting to work. But we get this panel where Jean d'Arc's grudge comes out and just starts to even more rip open the space, the air, this gate around him, and come out. And everybody's like, no, we can't do this. And like, this is the only shot that Kon has to do this. Until Taiga just says like, hey, a Kappa's true strength is sumo, and starts to push the grudge back in. And it's working. But all of a sudden, Jean d'Arc reaches out and grabs his leg and just starts to pull him into the portal. And there's this moment where, yeah, Kon could have closed the portal and saved him, but he hesitated. And in this moment, we see that Taiga's whole body is halfway through the portal. And if it gets closed, Taiga is going to die. And there's this really nice speech where Taiga's like, don't worry about me. And Konan's like, no, I can't. But he's like, Konan, it's okay. I know today is just my day to go. But you know, I'm happy with it. I'm going out with a purpose. I get to die knowing that my life had meaning. I lived. And Reiji's like, Taiga, right? And he just says like, guys, I'm sure you all have your own purposes too. Different ones. One's meant for the future. And of course, being that all of the familiars, of course, of all of Nico's familiars are here, like in the ethereal space looking down on this, we get this shot of Morito just looking down, his hair flapping into wind in this moment of like, yeah, if this didn't happen, there'd be no hope for the future because the current generation of familiars would not be around here. As he just says like, hey, the cap of bloodline ends with me, but you know, it's not your day yet. Live and don't forget me. As he rips off the tag and the gate closes, of course, cutting cutting Taiga straight in half. Oh, it's such an amazing moment through and through, man. Like, it hit me in the feels. As you see all the way down here, I already picked my character of the week because it could have been nobody else than Taiga this week. Somebody so selfless and somebody that does something for such a good cause as him. Just, oh my gosh, a great moment through and through in Witch Watch this week. And hey, with that, it's finally to come through here. And if I can get everything going right, okay, yeah, it's time to rank all of the chapters from worst to best. So I definitely think how we're going to be doing this is we're going to be putting Kill Blue right here, and right above it, the elusive elusive Samurai right there next. Two good chapters, just like, they're like the ones that round out this bottom half for sure. Then all of these top chapters I think were really, really good. I actually don't know how I want to do this. Akane Banashi was really good, that very big solidifying moment, but I definitely don't think it was chapter of the week material. Ichi to Witch was very good. Witch Watch was, I think Witch Watch is the second. I don't think it was the best chapter, but with my arbitrary ranking system, Witch Watch is going there. If I could spell it correctly, Witch Watch, there we go. Oh man, I'm actually having a very hard time with this one. Kagurabachi was definitely good. Undead Luck had that very nice moment. One Piece was also good. We're gonna put One Piece here. Sort of just having like to put something down somewhere and then sort of fill in everything else around it. We'll put Akane Banashi under One Piece. Banashi, and we'll remove those from the pecking order here. Kagurabachi was very good. I just didn't really like that chapter. Kagurabachi. Very, very entertaining. We'll put Undead Unlock here. And yeah, I think it's very fair to give it to Ichi. Yeah. Ichi the Witch. We'll put that next. Let's spell unlock correctly. That'd be cool. And then really, yeah, blue box. We'll put Ulti X-Row Kiyoshi next. And then we'll follow it up with Himatin and Sid Craft. I like that pretty much this week. I don't think like this is the perfect ranking, but honestly had a lot of very good banger chapters this week. And yeah, that's all of that right there. And that is actually finishing out the spreadsheet for the year. So now I can go through and do my chart, do all my averages, do my personal rankings. So it'll look something, let's go over to Shonen Jump 2023. So it'll look something like this here in a few days. I may make a video on that. I may not. We'll just see if I have time for it. But yeah, thank you guys so very much for watching this video on Weekly Shonen Jump issue number 45 of 2025. Of course, the last issue of the calendar year of 2024. So it's really just messing with my mind through and through. But yeah, a very good issue of Jump this week. And hey, if you enjoyed it, I've got plenty of other Shonen Jump videos on the channel, along with plenty of other anime and manga related videos. So if you like anything between anime and manga, go check those out on the channel. They'll be linked in down in the description down below. I'll have an in card at the end of this video, and also just go and like tap my channel icon and you can like see all the interesting stuff I get up to there. But not really too much else to say here on this one. And yeah, again, this was issue number 4-5 of 2025. And I'll catch you guys next time for issue number 6-7 of 2025. So yeah, guys, have a great one, and I'll catch you guys next time. This is Glowplasma 231, signing out.